little unrelated to wrestling.
Okay.
We had a conversation recently about, and we're not going to name names in this. Someone had mentioned the R word. Can you explain to people why it's so important to you, why we eliminate this word from our vocabulary, and how do we get that done?
The only way to get it done is by, and it's getting done more and more now. The R word, and this is for the R word is when people in a derogatory manner call someone retarded, okay? And it's very, for someone like me, I have 2 special needs kids, okay? 2 autistic children. One's 9, one's 11. My 11-year-old is high functioning. My 9-year-old is very severe. He's nonverbal, and every day is a challenge for him to get anything done. He's got more guts in his pinky than I have in my entire body or will ever have, okay? So when someone uses the term retarded as a derogatory phrase or term, okay, it's an insult to every one of those children or every one of those individuals, not just kids, okay, who have special needs, who battle, who fight, who and don't have a voice. So I consider myself one of many who are the voice for them. And I used to get really angry and defensive, and I realized that's not necessarily the way to get the message across, because then people automatically will get defensive back. So now what I try to do is I try to educate them. I try to say, listen, that's very hurtful. It's hurtful to me. So please come up with another phrase, and I'll explain why. Because my son, my 9-year-old, is special needs. He's on the he's severely autistic, okay, and mildly mentally retarded, and that is an extremely derogatory. If you're using it in a scientific term and you're saying something, but no one does. We're talking, unless you're in the medical profession or something. We're talking about when people use that as a derogatory phrase, and I just say, please just take a deep breath and think about what you're saying and who you're affecting, okay? I would say 90% of the people that I come across that way, with that message that way, they understand and apologize. And I say, listen, you don't have to apologize. I just want you to understand that it is hurtful. And please, if you could use another word or just erase that word from your vocabulary, that would be terrific, okay? I used to use that word years ago, and I was just like them. I'd just say, I just throw it out there. And until it actually hit me personally with my own children, and then I realized, wow. So that's why I say, instead of coming across with a sledgehammer and saying, hey, what are you doing? Don't use that word. What I try to say is, listen, that word is hurtful and can be hurtful. So please try to use another word.
Gotcha. Well, for anybody that doesn't know who Jimmy Cicero is, you're just watching this for me. My friends and family, I assume, are the only ones. I'm on board 100% with that. I don't want to hear the word. I don't want it used in my presence, and that's the final word. And I will bring the hammer down. I just don't like it. It's grating to my ears, so please don't use it.
Thank you.
Back to wrestling. We're going to do a little bit of word association. I'm going to name a wrestler or a company. Whatever you feel like saying about it. It can be 10 words. It can be whatever you feel.
Okay.
Let's start with Tom Brandi.
Tom Brandi. One of my best friends in the world. And like I said, like I was telling you before, I'm indebted to him for not only teaching me how to work, okay, how to manipulate and entertain a crowd, okay, but Tom took me under his wing when we were traveling, and was just a great guy, great friend is how I'd say Tom Brandi. WWE is it is what it is. It is the wrestling promotion, and I am thankful for the few years that I got to wrestle there as a job guy. At great times. They treated me really well when I was there, and my student Joey Mercury, he worked there for several years under a couple different stints as part of a tag team, and then as an agent down in the school in Florida, and then back as doing a security gimmick with Triple H and everything. So, I have nothing bad to say about the WWE in regards of what they've done for me personally. Like I said, they gave me an opportunity. They didn't have to, they gave me an opportunity to go up there and wrestle. And so yeah, it is what it is. It's changed, and it's not necessarily the way that I'm a throwback, and I like the 80s and maybe early 90s, but who am I to argue with a billionaire? So
we recently lost him. You have any thoughts on Bruno Sammartino?
yeah, Bruno was the ultimate gentleman in pro wrestling. I met him several times. He and Ivan, my teacher, spoke extremely highly of Bruno. Bill Apter speaks extremely highly of Bruno. Who knew? They said he was 82 years old when he passed away, and boy, he looked terrific till the end. He is one of the guys like Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair that I think transcends the wrestling business. He's one of those guys. And Madison Square Garden, look, they ended up having him on their billboard the day he passed away all day long. They had a sort of a memoriam to him on there. I think that speaks volumes.
One of the guys who trained me, Julio De Niro.
Julio he is a terrific wrestler, a great friend. He's now a father of several kids, and I'm sure he's just as successful doing that. I speak to him probably once every 6 months now, which is I miss him greatly. He could be the most annoying guy on a road trip, but he I love him to death. We had some fantastic matches. We used to team as the Bald and the Beautiful back in Maryland, back in the late 90s, I believe. And then we wrestled against each other more times than I can count. And the one constant with Julio, with his high-pitched voice, is I would always end up with a bloody lip because he would hit me with a big jumping spin kick, and no matter what, he would always catch me right in the lip, and then I'd always hear the same thing, "Oh, I'm sorry, Cicero, I'm sorry." He would always say it in his high voice, and I'd be like, and I couldn't get mad at the guy. I'd just be like, okay, well, you're buying dinner,
Sure. Christian York.
Oh, Christian is terrific. He's better than I ever was. Christian was a great talent, really dedicated, and I just have all the respect in the world for Christian and what he did. You have to understand, when I was training Christian and Joey, down in Alexandria, Virginia, Q-Ball Carmichael owned a wrestling school there, and he brought me in as a trainer, and I trained Joey and Christian. Joey was the teacher's pet. Joey did everything right. Didn't ask questions politely, yes sir, no sir. Christian was always the one who, I would explain why you need to do certain things. If you're giving a hip toss, make sure to help them by tucking their head under. Boom, okay? Christian wouldn't do that, and then he would smirk when I would say, "What was that?" He would smirk, and I'd say, "It's funny. It's funny that someone might, sprain their neck because you weren't careful." So I was a bit hard on Christian during the training, but as you can see, it turned out well. He had a nice run in TNA. He had a good time in ECW and all over the indies. And like I said, I taught him how to wrestle, but I handed it to him, and he went on and he became a much better wrestler than I ever was. So.
Two more here.
Okay.
I did have Joey Mercury / Matthews, but I think you've sort of.
Right.
Anything more to add about?
No, Joey's just a student of the game. I mean, Joey, right now, I would say, if I saw Joey now, I'd hug him and say, okay, the roles have changed, teacher, because he came to me as a 16-year-old kid, and, small, I could barely get him on I had to beg Grog in North Carolina to put him on a wrestling show, because he said he's just too small, but Grog was like, I'll put him on, because me and Grog were friends. And look at Joey now.
Sure.
I mean, Joey is he's one of those guys who has that brain that understands everything there is to understand. He's been through everything more than I can. I've been through a lot in 26 years. Joey has had less than 26 years, but he's been probably through 10 times as much because he spent a good portion of that time in a prominent role in the WWE. So, Joey has surpassed all of us, I think.
Bill Apter.
Bill Apter is one of my best friends in the world, and I love him. Like he's like my big brother, and he's someone who I grew up idolizing him because I had probably 800 wrestling magazines. The Wrestler, Inside Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Sports Review Wrestling, and the Feature Department Wrestling. All those. I had all those magazines, and I really looked up to Bill Apter. I loved Bill Apter, and then when I got to know him once I was in the business, he came and he actually reached out to me and asked me, "Hey, I understand you have special needs children. Would you mind coming and talking at a conference that I have that's called a HEAD?" And a HEAD is where a company that he works for, where they train and locate or place disabled special needs adults with job placement. And I was like, wow, I had no idea. Of course I will. So I went to Pennsylvania, stayed up there for a couple days, and really we got to know each other so well in that time. And we probably talked wrestling 5% of the time. We were just talking about how special needs has affected our lives and everything. And then we started just periodically hanging out. We went to a Glenn Campbell concert together and had a great time there. And then I travel up to Pennsylvania now, probably every 6 weeks or so with work. And every time I do, I go up there and Bill and I hang out. We do karaoke, and we go on what we call the Burnt Pizza Tour, where we go to different pizza joints and just rate the pizza place, And we always ask for them to cook it kind of well, because we both like pizza almost well done. I learned what kind of a man he is, and he's a dedicated family guy. He's really dedicated to the special needs community, and he still loves wrestling. I'm telling you, this guy is like a 20-year-old at heart still, because he still has such a passion for pro wrestling and for goofing off and for going and doing karaoke, Andy Williams and Neil Diamond, and of course we do our Glenn Campbell and everything. So I talk a little bit too much about that, but Bill Apter is just a terrific guy and one of my best friends.
Last one, wrestling fans, specifically the RWA fans.
Wow, the RWA fans are really passionate. For 3 years, I was called the name Mangina, and that's all I heard from them. They let me have it. These fans in this region, they love their wrestling, and like I tell the locker room, when I tell the guys, I said, listen, these fans chose to come here tonight instead of going to see the movies, instead of going to do anything else, going to play putt-putt golf. They chose to spend their money to come here. And in many cases, they don't have a lot of money. It's a tough time, and people have to spread a dollar, make it go a long way, stretch the dollar, So the fact that these fans have chosen month after month after month to come in here and watch our product, we owe it to them to give them the best possible show and to try to entertain them as much as possible. And so I'm thankful that the fans here are as passionate as they are. It's actually fun for me, because I've been in some states and cities and everything else where the fans will sit on their hands and just wait for you to mess up, or they'll just be the hardest fans to entertain. Philadelphia can be a tough town too to wrestle in, but here they're just ready to scream and yell when you get in there. So I think the Pittsburgh-based fans, and there's other promotions around here, and I think that those other promotions they understand the same thing. I tell the guys, these little territorial wars that these promotions have, and I'm like, guys, we should want everybody to succeed, because if wrestling succeeds in this area, continue to flourish. Okay, you don't want any promotion to be crappy. Okay, because if you do that, that fan may be turned off entirely to wrestling, and they may not take a chance at going to see another promotion. So I say, look, and a lot of our guys wrestle for other promotions anyway. Okay, so are you really cheering for or wanting one of our guys to have a crappy match just because it's under a different call letters or whatever? And maybe that's just the old man in me that just says, who cares? Just go out there, have a great match, and let's hope that the whole territory continues to flourish, the whole Pittsburgh region, so that the fans get good products. And really, hey, they went to another show last week and had a great time. Wow, let's go to see wrestling. Hey, in West Newton, there's a show next week. well, they're more likely to come see it if they had a good time at the last show than if they had a bad time. Because then they're going to say, I'm kind of turned off by that wrestling stuff. So that's just my philosophy on it now. And that also just has to do with the fact that I'm mature. I'm 50 years old, or almost 50 years old now. So I no longer get into this whole territorial thing.
50 years old.
Almost 50, yep.
What's next for the wise guy, Jimmy Cicero?
Well, I'm breaking down physically, so I can still wrestle a little bit, and I still love to, but I've got to monitor what I do, because I still want to be able to play with my kids. I still want to be able to do things with my wife, around the house and around the yard and everything else. But I'll always be part of the fraternity of pro wrestling. And so right now, I enjoy, tonight for instance, I'm not wrestling tonight, okay? I had a conversation with you, and I thought about that conversation, and I thought, Kato's right. These people should get off to a hot start. And you were right. And so I was like, let me go ahead and make some tweaks and changes. And I did. And I'm still part of the wrestling. I'll always, until I'm dead, I'll always be part of the wrestling fraternity, part of the brotherhood. And I love to do the booking and the manipulation of the show and the card and everything else. So I'll do that, and I'll still, when it warrants it, I'll still pop in the ring from time to time and do a little bit of wrestling. But I think that'll be it. I think from that, and I kind of pick and choose. I'll wrestle here, and there's a promotion up in New York that I wrestle for a friend named Ricky Landell. I'll go up there and wrestle for him and Tommy Vizzo up in New York, and then I'll still stay here in the Pittsburgh region. But outside of that, when I'm not wrestling, I'm goofing around with my kids, watching Washington Nationals games and doing family stuff.
Well, we have covered a lot.
Yeah.
I think we're getting to the end here. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
No, I appreciate you having me on here. It's been a fun interview, a really good interview. And, like I said, man, for me, the most important thing I think that we touched on, all the wrestling stuff is great and everything else, but I just ask all the fans out there and all the people out there that are watching, if you, and I'm not saying this just to get on a tangent or anything, but if you know anyone or think you know anyone, a loved one, that may be on the autism spectrum, get it checked out and find out what types of services you can get to help you out. Okay, because if you get the diagnosis and then you look up some of the services that may be able to help you out, that the medical field can help you out with in terms of bills and things like that, do it. Okay, it's worth it. And then and on top of that, if anyone out there has a loved one that in the special need that falls in the special needs category, you can look me up as Matt Bowman on Facebook, and just friend request me, because the community, the special needs community, is very tight, and a lot of times, sometimes it's just there to support. For support, we talk, we exchange information, ideas, and sometimes we vent. So reach out to me, Matt Bowman, BOWMAN hyphen Jimmy Cicero, and friend request me. And like I said, I'll never turn anybody down. Thank you.
Well, this has been really great. I learned a lot. I hope all of you learned a lot. I'm going to close it the way I always close anything that I cover here on my page. Thank you for watching. Please, guys, girls, stop having bad matches. You're ruining my life.
All right, brother. Thank you.
That was...